The morning started like any other for Ethan. Sunlight streamed through the window of his bedroom, illuminating the posters of rocket ships and superheroes on his walls. Ethan, a bright 12-year-old boy with boundless imagination, had been in a wheelchair since he was 7 due to a spinal cord injury from a car accident. But today, he felt a surge of excitement. It was Saturday, the one day he and Max, his golden retriever, always spent exploring their small town. Max had been a gift after Ethan's accident, and the dog had become his constant companion, his shadow, and his best friend. They had a routine. Ethan would wheel himself to the park, and Max would race ahead, fetching sticks or greeting every passerby with a wagging tail. But today's adventure would be different, and Ethan couldn't have predicted how much it would change his life. "Ready, Max?" Ethan called as he secured his wheelchair ramp. Max barked enthusiastically, his tail wagging so hard it was a blur. Ethan laughed, grabbing the leash and heading out into the crisp autumn air. Their first stop was the park. As always, Max bolted across the grassy field, sniffing at everything and greeting everyone. Ethan wheeled himself to their usual spot under the oak tree and watched Max with a smile. Suddenly, Max froze, his ears perking up. He stared at the dense forest bordering the park, his body rigid. Before Ethan could call out to him, Max bolted toward the trees. "Max!" Ethan shouted, his heart lurching. He tried to follow, wheeling himself as fast as he could, but Max disappeared into the shadows of the forest. Panic surged through Ethan. Max never ran off like this. "Max, come back!" he yelled, his voice cracking. Park was mostly empty and no one seemed to notice his distress. Ethan hesitated at the edge of the forest, the tall trees casting long shadows. He'd never ventured into the woods alone before. Taking a deep breath, Ethan pushed his wheelchair forward. The forest was darker than he expected, the canopy blocking out much of the sunlight. The sound of crunching leaves under his wheels was the only noise, aside from his own rapid breathing. "Max!" he called again, but his voice echoed with no reply. As he moved deeper into the woods, he noticed something strange. The air felt cooler, almost electric, and there was an eerie stillness. Then he saw it, a faint glowing light in the distance. "What is that?" Ethan muttered to himself. Curiosity overpowered his fear, and he rolled toward the light. As he got closer, he saw that it was coming from a clearing. In the center of the clearing was a large, smooth stone that shimmered with an otherworldly glow. Standing next to the stone was Max. "Max!" Ethan called, relief flooding through him. But Max didn't come running. Instead, the dog stood perfectly still, staring at the glowing stone. Ethan wheeled himself into the clearing, the air humming around him. "What are you doing, buddy?" he asked, his voice trembling. Max turned to look at him, his eyes reflecting the strange light. Then to Ethan's shock, the stone began to pulse, and a low melodic hum filled the clearing. Before Ethan could react, the light from the stone engulfed them both. When Ethan opened his eyes, he was no longer in the forest. The air was warm, and the sky above him was a deep, endless blue. He was in a vast meadow filled with flowers of colors he'd never seen before. Shimmering blues, radiant golds, and iridescent purples. Max stood beside him, wagging his tail as if nothing had happened. "Where are we?" Ethan whispered, his voice full of wonder. A soft voice answered, "You are in a place between worlds." Ethan spun his wheelchair around, his heart pounding. Standing before him was a woman, dressed in flowing robes that seemed to change colors as they caught the light. Her eyes sparkled with a kindness that put him at ease. "Who are you?" Ethan asked. "I am Ilaris," the woman said, her voice melodic. "And you, Ethan, are a special soul. You have been brought here for a reason." Ethan's brow furrowed. "Me? I don't understand." Ilaris gestured toward Max. Your companion led you here because he sensed your heart's deepest wish. Ethan glanced at Max, who barked happily. My deepest wish? Ilaris nodded. This meadow is a place of healing and transformation. It reflects the desires of those who find it. Tell me, Ethan, what do you wish for? Ethan hesitated, his hands gripping the wheels of his chair. The answer came easily, though he barely dared to say it aloud. I wish I could walk again, he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. Ilaris's gaze softened. That is a powerful wish, but wishes require courage and effort. Are you willing to face the challenges ahead? Ethan looked at Max, who wagged his tail encouragingly. Then he looked back at Ilaris and nodded. Yes, I'll do whatever it takes. Ilaris led Ethan and Max to the edge of the meadow, where a towering golden archway shimmered. Beyond the archway was a winding path that disappeared into a dense forest. This path will test you, Ilaris explained. It will show you who you are and who you can become. Trust in yourself and in your companion. Together, you can overcome anything. Ethan swallowed hard, his nerves threatening to overwhelm him. But he squared his shoulders and nodded. We're ready, Ilaris smiled. Then go, and may the light guide you. As Ethan wheeled himself through the archway, Max trotting faithfully beside him, he felt a strange mix of fear and excitement. The path ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, he felt a glimmer of hope. The challenges began almost immediately. The path was uneven, with roots and rocks jutting out in unpredictable places. Ethan struggled to maneuver his wheelchair, sweat dripping down his face. At one particularly steep incline, his wheels got stuck. He gritted his teeth, trying to push forward, but the chair wouldn't budge. Come on, he muttered, frustration bubbling up. Max barked and nudged his shoulder, as if encouraging him. Taking a deep breath, Ethan tried again. This time, he leaned forward, using all his strength to propel the chair upward. Slowly but surely, he made it to the top. Thanks, buddy, Ethan said, scratching Max behind the ears. The path continued to challenge him. Twisting turns, narrow ledges, and even a rushing stream they had to cross. Each obstacle seemed designed to test his resolve, but with Max by his side, Ethan refused to give up. As they neared the end of the path, Ethan noticed a change in the air. It felt lighter, almost magical. Ahead of him was another clearing, and in the center stood a pedestal holding a small glowing orb. Ethan approached cautiously, his heart pounding. As he reached out to touch the orb, a surge of energy coursed through him. Images flashed before his eyes, memories of his accident, his time in the hospital, the loneliness he'd felt afterward. But then the images shifted, showing him moments of strength and resilience, learning to use his wheelchair, making Max his loyal companion, finding joy in small things. When the vision ended, Ethan felt a warmth spreading through his body. He looked down and realized with a jolt that he could feel his legs. Tears filled his eyes as he slowly stood, his legs trembling but holding firm. Max barked excitedly, jumping up to lick Ethan's face. I'm standing, Ethan whispered, a mix of disbelief and joy. I'm really standing. When Ethan and Max returned to the meadow, Ilaris was waiting for them. Her smile was radiant. You have proven your strength, Ethan, she said. This gift is yours because you faced your fears and never gave up. Ethan looked down at Max, his loyal companion, and then back at Ilaris. Thank you, he said, his voice thick with emotion. Ilaris nodded. Go back to your world, Ethan, and share your light with others. Your journey is just beginning. With a final wave, Ilaris and the meadow faded away, and Ethan found himself back in the forest where his journey had begun. The sun was setting, as Ethan emerged from the trees, standing tall with Max by his side. His parents, who had been frantically searching for him, froze in shock. "Hey, Ethan," his mom whispered, her eyes wide. Ethan grinned. "I'm okay, Mom. Better than okay." As his parents rushed to embrace him, Ethan knew that his life had changed forever. But it wasn't just his ability to walk that had transformed. It was his belief in himself and the unbreakable bond he shared with Max. And for the first time, Ethan truly believed that anything was possible.